Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Yolanda Melody. I'm gonna just talk about a load of things in this video, and I was trying to figure out what the title would be that kind of encompasses it all together. So for the sake of the algorithm, I'm probably gonna title this something like 2024 predictions, even though, as usual, I'm late on the train. I'm going to talk a bit about, obviously, the general energy of 2024, what I think is going to happen, what the general vibe is going to be. I'm not professing to be psychic by any means, although my intuition does tend to be quite on point, but I don't want to put any pressure on it. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the apocalypse, which I say so casually, as if to be like, oh, the apocalypse, yeah. Standard procedure. I also want to talk about Leave the World Behind, even though, again, everybody spoke about it already. This is why I could never do trending topics as a thing on my channel, because honestly I just can't keep up with the pace of everything nowadays. But regardless, I still want to give my take on it because so many people are saying that this film is basically predictive programming. At the start of the fake new year, I had this weird urge to watch loads and loads of 2024 prediction videos, just out of curiosity, and I did notice that there seems to be a pattern. There were certain things that came up that across the board everyone was saying, and then obviously you get the channels that don't want to say anything negative whatsoever, and they're like, oh, 2024 is like the year of abundance. This is the year that you're going to become a millionaire. Yeah, I don't do that on my channel. That's probably why people get so angry at me all the time. Sometimes it feels like I am the bearer of bad news, but me personally, I'd rather hear something truthful and raw as opposed to the usual, fluffy fairies, live and light, all of that. Anyway, this intro is all over the place, so let's get organised. First, I just want to briefly talk about 2023 and how I feel that it was kind of a nondescript year. Every single day, something even more ridiculous was happening. And you know what? I'm going to say 2023 was the year of Clown Planet. Nothing specific really happened. It was just a load of mess and junk. Mass stupidity and psychosis. You can tell that nearly everyone had got this feeling of just giving up. For me, it kind of felt like limbo because ever since 2020, I think we got used to the idea that something bad is just round the corner. Something big and shocking is just round the corner, and we all need to prepare for it. I've spoken so much about the Great Reset on my channel, and we've had numerous people speculating on what's going to happen, whether it's cyber attacks, a Carrington event, blackouts, 15-minute cities. Pretty much ever since 2020, all eyes have been on the gov. I'm sure there's a psychological name for this. It's not Stockholm Syndrome, but it's like it. On a mass scale, people have got used to living in a fearful state. And it's almost become a self-fulfilling prophecy because if you look back at 2023, really it was just limbo. But some people are saying that 2023 was the calm before the storm. And I can get on board with this idea because we all feel that something needs to happen to society on a global level. The entire structure of this system is fucked. And in my personal opinion, in order for something new to occur, in order for change to happen, the old ways do need to be destroyed in some kind of fashion. However, I think there's a battle going on between their Great Reset and our Great Reset. Some people have said, and this was a pattern that I noticed, people have said that 2024, the general vibe is the year of destruction. There are other things as well that people mentioned a lot, such as karma. It's the year of instant karma. Me personally, I like that. Yeah, I'm on board. I'm sure I can speak for many when I say that a lot of people's karma has been long overdue. And for all the good people out there that have been pushing and pushing, I do actually believe that this year will bring a lot of blessings to good people. And I'm not saying that to be woo-woo or to virtue signal or anything like that. I can feel it when it comes to me in my personal life. If you were to ask me, what are my predictions for this year coming up? I feel like we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff. That's a given. It's kind of obvious, really. But when I say crazy stuff, I literally mean like 2020 kind of crazy. Or a plethora of things on a global scale are going to happen that's going to change things up. But I don't think it's going to be the elite's plan. I think it's going to be the people fighting back. They're going to push it too far. People are too fed up now. And I think maybe it will look a bit chaotic at first, but in the end, justice will be served. And we won't be living in this fake, backwards, bullshit world the way that it used to be. A lot of people get scared of the idea of the apocalypse. I talk about the apocalypse a lot on my channel. And I just want to clarify what I personally mean by the apocalypse, because I think everyone's got a different version in their heads of what it's going to look like. Obviously, if you think about it, there are so many apocalyptic films, Leave the World Behind being one of them. There are so many different ways that the apocalypse can play out, and some of those ways could be someone's worst nightmare, but I personally think a lot of these films are made to scare people, to make them think that without a government, life will be like a horror movie. Whereas I personally think that life is like a horror movie with a government. So much so that you can't even write the word on YouTube without it getting censored. But anyway, when I talk about the apocalypse, my vision is, first off, a complete societal breakdown. The most likely thing that I think is going to happen is some kind of solar flare that will wipe out the internet. I genuinely think that that is going to happen at some point in our lives. And I think it'll happen at just the right time when the internet has served its purpose. But at some point people need to reconnect with nature, detach from technology, because so many people have become consumed by technology. Obviously, I have a lot of good things to say about the internet. I mean, look at what I do. I love it. The internet has opened up so many doors. It's allowed us to meet like-minded people. Okay, I've completely lost my place because my camera just died and I had to change the battery again. But, where was I? Yeah, the internet. For so many of us, we have used the internet for so many good things. We've managed to avoid the negatives and we utilize the positives. For example, so many people have built careers on the internet. So many people who are creative have been able to share their gifts. So much knowledge has been put out there. I have a lot to say about the internet and how much it has really, really benefited me. As long as society has been running the way that it has, the internet really has saved me, because I really am a black sheep when it comes to my general environment. I don't like leaving the house. I'm pretty much like a recluse. I buy all these clothes and I don't know why, because I don't go anywhere. It's kind of like insanity, but anyway, I'm really going on a tangent here. On the flip side, the internet has been the destruction of some people. It really is like a drug, and sometimes I feel like oh, this is really bad. Sometimes I feel like content creators, not all of them, because there's a lot of content creators that do educational content and things that are beneficial to people, but the content creators that make crazy clickbait, mental, watch me eat 1,000 Oreos. What happens if I drive this truck into someone's house? That kind of content. I feel like they are the drug dealers and the people that consume it have become the addicts. And the dealers know not to get addicted to the product. Meanwhile, the addicts just spiral and spiral and spiral. That is what I feel like has happened to so many people, especially young people. We see this all the time. People are always going on about what the hell is going to happen to the younger generation, the ones that we call iPad kids, kids that have been brought up with iPads, because obviously looking after a child is like a full-time job, and parents now have the option to give their child an iPad for hours and hours on end, and it's now become a thing that people give their kids screen time limits because this is clearly potentially really damaging. One of the main ways is that people's attention span is completely shot. You know, on WhatsApp you can play someone's voice note and you can do it ×2. Me personally, I don't like watching people's content sped up. I find it jitters my brain. I like to savour the moment. And recently I much prefer watching people who are a lot calmer with their delivery, because that puts me in a calm state. However, the kids, they don't have the wisdom to understand how certain things can mess with your brain. And the majority of these kids now, they'll listen to voice notes ×2. So it's like blah, 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 blah. They'll listen to voice notes that are so sped up that you can barely actually register what's being said. Most of them can't sit down and watch long form content. And when they do, again, they speed it ×2. And you watch them when anyone is talking in real life, they do not have the patience to listen. They won't listen to it because it's just too slow. And the irony is that they will tell you, these kids will say, it's not our attention span, it's that you're boring, you talk too slow. The kids think that if they listen to something that is really, really sped up, that somehow all of that information is going to get logged into their brain and like they're learning really quickly. No, that's not how it works. I know you guys know this already, but I don't know. I have to rant about it. And obviously the internet has also caused us issues because now everything, literally everything, is done online. And this has made it so difficult for people to meet people in real life because everyone is at home on the internet. It's now so much more difficult for people to meet a significant other, for example, because everyone seems to be going on these dating websites which are completely insidious. But I digress. The way that I explain it when it comes to a Carrington event happening or the internet being wiped out altogether, why I think it's going to happen eventually is because you can see how technology has taken over. It's taken over rapidly to the point where the advancements are happening at such a quick rate that I can see that it will reach a peak at some point. And naturally, in the laws of nature, when something reaches a peak and it can't go any further up, or it becomes toxic, it will somehow have to implode because there is nowhere else for it to go. I know that sounds a little bit abstract. That analogy may not make sense to people, but it makes sense in my head. Another thing that I want to talk about is the film Leave the World Behind. Everybody did a video about this film. It got so much press and I was quite surprised because I thought I didn't really feel like this film stood out against all the other apocalypse films personally. Yes, there was a lot of Easter eggs. You know, some people honed in on the front cover and said that if you connect the letters going down, it says Baal. Then you also have the opening scene where you can see 666 put in subliminally. It was co-directed by Obama, I believe. So yeah, I can understand people paying attention to that as well. And obviously there was tons of things in the film, you know, like the t-shirts. There was the little boy and the little girl. The girl was wearing a NASA t-shirt, the boy was wearing an Obey t-shirt, and there's even a shot where they're together and it says Obey NASA. Also, I just want to mention this so that I can document it on this video for a reference. When searching for the picture of the Obey NASA t-shirts, someone has actually gone out of their way to Photoshop the Obey part out of the boy's t-shirt. I can tell you this as a fact. I watched the film with my own eyes, and I could watch it again and I could show you he was definitely wearing an Obey t-shirt. So my question is, why are the pictures roaming around on the internet where it's been photoshopped out? Are they literally just trying to gaslight us? Is this them trying to create some kind of Mandela effect? Because if so, it's not going to work. And then you had the famous speech from the guy.
Turns to me, a serious face, and he says, "Oh, you know, just my annual meeting with the rest of the evil cabal that runs the world."
What else did I miss? Looking at it now, yeah, I can see why this film stood out. However, I do believe that there are other films that just fly completely under the radar that nobody talks about, and I just find it a bit strange. For example, there's a film called Greenland, which nobody ever really talks about, but I personally think it's quite prominent. Pretty much at the beginning of the film, it shows you the lead up to an apocalyptic event, and every single device comes up with this emergency alert system. Now, this is all bearing in mind that this film came out before the emergency alert system came out in the UK. I'm not sure about you guys in the US or other countries, but personally, I found this film to be really realistic in the portrayal of the early stages of the breakdown of society. Hi, Mia. Another film that I've done a video about is Silent Night. Again, crazy amounts of predictive programming. There were a lot of psychological similarities between that film and the way that people were in 2020. There was so much climate change BS. If you want to know more about that film, feel free to watch my video. Oh my god, and how could I forget? Cell. Have any of you guys seen Cell? It's literally on the TV like every other night. It's ridiculous. It is played so often on the TV, and I really do feel like they're trying to say something. In Cell, it's like a zombie apocalypse that happens through a signal that is coming out of the cell tower, and everyone who has a phone and puts it to their ear, they hear this frequency and it pretty much turns them into a zombie. I just think that if Leave the World Behind got that much press, I don't understand why these films don't get the press, but I think really it's all because Obama had something to do with this film. That's why I think that it became a really big talking point, simply because more people were aware of the film even existing. Also, while we're talking about the film, I don't know if you guys saw, but I posted something in my community posts. So I watched this film with my parents, and what was strange was that my dad honed in on the artwork that you saw throughout the film, and he said to me, literally, a painting just like this is going through the auction. And long story short, we ended up buying it. I personally think it looks extremely similar to the one in the film. Literally the day after watching this film, my dad ended up purchasing this painting for $5. I just felt like sharing that because I personally think it's the weirdest synchronicity ever. And when you see these crazy synchronicities, it just reminds you that there is more going on than what you see in this physical world. Life is very, very weird. Whether that is manifestation, fate, some sort of sign, either way, any explanation is good to me. But going back to the actual film, I know it might sound a bit crazy. I personally didn't watch the film and feel scared. I don't know if that's how I was supposed to feel, but the way I looked at it, they're in a beautiful house in the middle of nature. They see lots of deer, which is great. They've got a swimming pool, flamingos. I love flamingos. And then the little girl just manages to find a bunker that has literally everything she needs to survive in it. Meanwhile, the whole of society has just broke down. Cash is completely irrelevant. Money is irrelevant. And everyone's just left the fuck alone to do what they want to do. Is it really that bad? Society is fucked. Why would you want to maintain a system that is so corrupt and so unfair, where justice is never served and where we are controlled, not because of morals? It's got nothing to do with morals. We are controlled to be subservient to a bunch of elitist narcissists. Why does anyone want to maintain that? You can't fix this system from within because it is corrupt at the core. It's been corrupt for a long time. A long time. What I have found over the past few years that's really prominent is that you can have two ways of thinking. On one hand, you can prioritize what you deem to be safety, but it's a false sense of security, and in return, you give away some of your freedom. And what's happened is that people have become so scared that they have progressively given away so much of their freedom, and they are in this tiny little box, like a padded cell. And then you have the other way of thinking, which is the people who want freedom more than anything. Freedom is the most important thing. And if that means that things might be a bit more dangerous, if it means survival of the fittest, then so be it, because there is absolutely no point living this life to be a prisoner. It's not worth it. We are born to be free. We are not supposed to be in chains. When I look at these apocalyptic films, what I actually see is freedom. Not in all of the films, obviously some of the concepts are kind of horrific, but the one notion that people get really scared of, and this was very prominent in the film, was the idea that a civil war could break out and the people will turn on each other. And what you have to think is, am I being programmed to believe that human nature is so vile? Or could it be that we are not actually the problem? Could it be that there is hope for humanity and maybe people would actually thrive in an environment where they are not being controlled? After all, the whole reason why we have a government is because they're supposed to protect us from each other. That's the narrative that we've been told, that has been drilled into us for such a long time now. People think that if there was no laws, that people would just go out onto the streets and destroy one another. But is that necessarily true? You might think that I'm naive by saying this, but think about it. What is the root of most crime? Yes, there's some people out there who want to cause harm. There's a lot of people out there. But most of the time, the laws that are broken, if you strip it down, a lot of the time it's about money. I guess I'll just end it here. Thank you to everyone who donates to this channel, and thank you so much to everyone who likes, shares, comments and subscribes, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you, bye!